So I'm going to go right to reorganization of the board. So we have two technically newly elected board members, even though they both re-upped, Kevin Christie and Doug Heavyside. So they need to do their oaths of office. And then in the past, I think the continuing board members have also liked to sort of reaffirm their oath. So Kevin or Doug, would you, one of you like to start? Maybe Kevin, so you can show Doug how it's done. And Lisa O'Neill, the town clerk, is here to notarize them when you're done.
Oh, okay. Instead of okay.
This one I agree.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Thank you.
The board members who are already sitting, you don't need to have Lisa notarize it. It'll just confuse the record because you've already got your oaths signed and filed with the town clerk. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
Thank you.
Vermont Oath of Allegiance for local officials. I, Kevin Coach Christie, do solemnly swear that I will be true and faithful to the state of Vermont, that I will not directly or indirectly do any act or thing injurious to the Constitution or government thereof. So help me God, under the pains and penalties of perjury. The oath of office. I, Kevin Coach Christie, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of school director for 3 years for the state of Vermont, and will therein do equal right justice to all persons to the best of my judgment and ability according to the law. So help me God, under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I, Douglas Heavisides, do solemnly swear that I will be true and faithful to the state of Vermont, and that I will not directly or indirectly do any act or things injurious to the Constitution or government thereof. So help me God, under pains and penalties of perjury. The oath of office. I, Douglas Heavisides, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will execute the office of school board director for the state of Vermont, and therein to do equal right and justice to all persons to the best of my judgment and ability according to law. So help me God, under the pains and penalties of perjury.
So I will ask you each of your signing of your free act and deed. If you say yes, I will notarize. So you sign, are you signing freely?
Yes.
And you'll sign here, which is the first, the oath of allegiance. And then the second location is down below. Right here, for your oath of office. And we will record these in the clerk's office for permanent record. Do either of you want copies emailed to you tomorrow once we do this? Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for staying.
Congratulations. So is the pleasure of the board to reaffirm?
Sure.
Russ, Nancy?
Yes, I have no problem.
I, Peter Merrill, do solemnly affirm that I will be true and faithful to the state of Vermont and will not directly or indirectly do any act or thing injurious to the Constitution or government thereof under the pains and penalties of perjury. I, Peter Merrill, do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of school board member for the state of Vermont and will therein do equal right and justice to all persons to the best of my judgment and ability according to law under pain and penalties of perjury.
I, Russell Kaynorth, do solemnly affirm that I will be true and faithful to the state of Vermont and that I will not directly or indirectly do any act or thing injurious to the Constitution or the government thereof under pains and penalties of perjury. I, Russell Kaynorth, do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of school director for the state of Vermont and will therein do equal and right justice to all persons to the best of my judgment and ability according to law under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I, Nancy Russell, do solemnly swear, do solemnly affirm that I will be true and faithful to the state of Vermont and that I will not directly or indirectly do any act or thing injurious to the Constitution or government thereof under pains and penalties of perjury. I, Nancy Russell, do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of school board director for the state of Vermont and will therein do equal right and justice to all persons to the best of my judgment and ability according to law under the pains and penalties of perjury.
Thank you. Congratulations, everybody. So the first order of business is to accept nominations for board chair. Any nomination?
May I make a comment before we start the nominating?
Absolutely.
I'd just like to remind everyone that I have previously stated that my house is for sale, and when and if it sells, I will be moving off the school board, so it would be inappropriate for me to run for any of the officer positions.
Thank you. Okay, with that said, are there nominations for school board chair?
I would like to nominate Kevin Coach Christie for the position of board chair.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Yeah, any discussion? Or other nominations? All right, seeing none, all in favor of Kevin Coach Christie for board chair, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Turn the meeting over to the newly elected board chair. Thank
you, everyone.
you.
You know, you say to yourself, is it or should it? But
I
thank
don't
you.
want the job.
I'm moving weight.
Are you guys trying to tell me something? I'm just really, proud of our community to be able to serve for another term. Are there any changes, additions, and
Maybe you should do clerk first.
yeah, right, yeah.
Nominations.
Is there a nomination for
Does anybody wish to be the clerk? He is declined. You will do it?
Sure.
Wonderful.
I
I
love
would
to.
like to nominate Nancy Russell for the position of board clerk.
Thank you.
I second.
So we have a motion and a second to nominate Nancy Russell as our new board clerk. Any discussion?
Great idea.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Now we'll address the agenda. Changes, additions. There is one thing that we have been giving some thought to, is a short item that we can do under I guess under our board and committee reports. There's been discussion about recognition for student athletes and participants in extracurriculars like the debate team and things of this sort. And they've been doing some really, really cool things. And we haven't really, as a board, had the opportunity to recognize them formally. So we thought that we'd give some thought to how we could do that. So I'd like to just add that to the agenda. Brief discussion about it. Any other? Okay, hearing none. Approval of the agenda.
We approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second.
So we have a motion to accept the agenda as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. We will be going into executive session for the purpose of discussing a grievance. So, you know, during that time, you know, we'll go off live, you know, during the executive session once we go in, and the folks that should be present should be the parties to the grievance. And if you're a witness to the grievance, we'd ask you to wait outside to be called in. So the primary grievant would stay with the union rep. And then we go from there.
I just know that there's one primary reason was we filed the grievance on behalf of sort of like the right now for this one of the association and the maintenance system. But it also involves the whole unit, so I don't know how that. I don't know your answer to that.
Well, we'll get a little counsel since we do have the board's attorney there.
And I asked you guys to come if you had any questions.
Right. Well, that was the witness piece.
Yeah.
It looks like it's just brought on behalf of the HEA, but the way it appears,
That's fine.
no named grievance other than the association itself.
Okay.
So you're the representative of the association, correct?
I won't have my bodyguards here. Yeah, you guys can go ahead.
Well, it's not. Yeah, we're not in.
Not ready yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet.
You can.
So I would move that we find that it is necessary to have an executive session pursuant to section 313 of Vermont statutes annotated pursuant to 313A1 D, grievances or other than tax grievances, and that we enter into said executive session.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second to go into executive session, and we're moving into executive session at 5:14.
All right.
I'm sorry, I lost it there for.
That's too bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but
I'll have
the way
to
my house
remember.
is
We'll
set,
have to.
I'll be here for a while.
I'll have to remember to bring extra heater or something next time. Gloves. So we're back in session after the executive session, and the first order of business is to take up the superintendent's report, and then we'll do H. Corey right after.
All right, thank you. I'll try to be brief because we are running a little bit late, but on the elementary front, yesterday, geez, it seems like so long ago. Yesterday, we had an in-service day. So we had all the school teachers at the Dolkenbrook School and had an excellent in-service day. In fact, I facilitated a session with Doug Cussius, the principal at the White River School. And it was all of the related arts teachers around high leverage instructional practices. It was great. Had a lot of fun doing that and was really appreciative of all the related arts teachers. So that's foreign language, phys ed, art, music, the librarians, and they're just so dedicated to our schools and improving them and making sure every kid's learning. So it was wonderful. So in addition to the in-service day, you had the math and English language arts level sessions. This is from Julie. Teachers were offered a menu of equity-centered items to choose from. So one was Alex Vanette's book, Equity-Centered Trauma-Informed Education. Another was Shedding New Light on Student Behaviors. A third was Barway's Anti-Racism Inquiry Group. I have a hard time saying that, especially when I'm cold. Exploring our racial identities as educators. And fifth offering was Text Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack, which explores systems of oppression. So they spent a good portion of the day on equity-related items. The other thing we wanted to mention, we have a group of administrators and teachers and Julie going next week down to Windsor Locks to visit a school that is well into the EL education program. So they've been doing it for several years, and we're going to observe classrooms and talk with teachers about their experiences. So pretty exciting stuff at the elementary level. And then at the high school level, you know, we're just finishing up the winter athletic season. Unfortunately, we had two sort of devastating losses in basketball and also hockey. We're working on with the kids to get them signed up for next year's courses, which is always exciting. And that course sign up always leads to like new sections and new offerings, depending on what they're interested in. The high school had its 10th graders take part in the PSAT testing. And they purchased a test for every single 10th grader. So there's no questions about access to that assessment. 80% of the students have taken the test, and there will be a retake available soon. 11th graders take the SAT on March 22nd. So that's coming up. Any questions about that? I don't think I have anything else. It was nice that we had an in-service day yesterday because of, you know, the election, you know, voting. So it was nice to clear our parking lot so they had the free reign.
Well, that's in the grand scheme of scheduling, as difficult as it is to have that day as a scheduled in-service day. It was pretty imaginative, you know, because, you know, when the kids were in session and we'd have those, it was really, there were times I wasn't quite as concerned with safety because people were really paying attention, but the possibility was there. just because of that extra level of traffic. So,
Yeah, and I mean, there's certain times if you were coming in to vote when buses were coming to drop off students or pick up students in the afternoon where it's just too much. At the high school,
Yeah.
that lane that goes right by where people are going in to vote is the congestion main thoroughfare for students. So just kind of a hard spot.
Peter.
Entirely unrelated to what was just described. Could I ask you to turn down the sound in your earphones or whatever? I'm getting a delayed echo effect, which makes it very hard for me to focus.
Thank you. Yeah, I noticed that too. It's just. All right.
Hartford PD made a nice gesture. I'm sorry, Tom, talking about yesterday, because 3 different officers came through at different times and just kind of stopped and visited with a couple of people and looked around. And it wasn't a bad experience at all. In fact, I think it was very comforting to some, thinking that they were thinking of us. And I've done a number of these over here at the election polls, and this is the first time I've seen them come through and just kind of look around and stop and talk to people.
Actually, they've done that.
I just hadn't seen it before.
But remember, we got things interrupted for a couple of years.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that was.
But during the previous chief's administration, he was there.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, exactly.
So it was casual.
Yes, it was very casual,
and it really made a big difference. Okay. So thank you, Tom. And that brings us to our next item of business, which is the second H. Corey charge renewal draft.
Hello, good evening. Sarah Campbell, Little River Junction. I'm the chair of Corey, and I have 2 kids in the school district, one of which just took the PSAT. And his response was, "I'm done." Very pleased. So we took this to the select board 2 weeks ago, and one of the requests was a summary of changes. We didn't make a lot of substantive language changes, but we did change the structure a little bit. So I tried to give you a summary of how the document has changed. The document is to aid just in this second charge. Our original charge expired. It had an expiration date built into it of 6 years. So it was going to expire. It will expire on April the 3rd. So we worked over the course of the fall all the way into our January meeting in little sections, making sure that we were very thoughtful and walked through this. So in our opening paragraph, there are no changes. And we chose to add our mission statement that we developed our second year to the charge. And then I can read the changes if you wouldn't mind opening the actual renewal.
Yep.
And the second one. So we created as a group in 2020, I think, a mission statement. So there's no change to this opening. So if you scroll down, I think. Yeah, so we added our mission statement, which has never been in our charge in the past. We rearranged a bit it just started with charge and had all of these line items. So we separated them into purpose items and actual action items. So our purpose items were moved into this section, and they are about kind of our goals: supporting the town and the school, working towards a welcoming environment, reducing racial disparities, supporting commitment to racial equity, and supporting the town of Hartford and the school district in cultivating greater understanding of diversity, inclusion, equity, implicit bias, white privilege, white supremacy, systemic racism, and intersectionality. And those were all in our original charge. We wanted to make this more clear. So then the charge section, we now actually have our action items. And we did do some clarity. There was a lot of like really long language. And Russ can tell you, we spent a lot of time, what does this sentence actually say? You know, like coordinating programming was a paragraph. And we were like, that's not what we want to say we're going to do. So this has been cleaned up. And then our equity and inclusion strategic plan, that was a charge to create one. And that obviously that RFP was built and the plan was given to us in 2020. And so we just revised this language to supporting the implementation of that. Nothing in item 4 has changed. So the next real change is in the terms. And you guys just saw this in October when we added our student liaison, which we are thrilled to have, and she's an amazing asset. But what we did is we removed the expirations. So both our charge and our committee members had a term limit, and that is not typical of other committees. And I think was just originally put in because this committee was created kind of based on a reactionary situation. And so we were very thoughtful about thinking through what this meant for us. So we removed the term limits. And we, instead of having it expire every 6 years and having to bring it back to you, our committee is committed to an internal update and review every 3 years. And if we do make changes at those times, we would obviously bring them to both boards. So it won't be a hard date of like 6 years from today, this expires, but we are committed as a committee to making sure that we are staying on top of what our charge is and that it is reflecting the work that we are accomplishing and what we would like to do in the future. And the Constitution has not changed. That was approved from the 2020 changes we just made. And then the slight revision to the selection process, we added or Hartford School District designee, as we wait for an equity coordinator and in any time if that position was empty. We just want to make sure that we were clear about how that went. So it's not a huge change. It's kind of a clarification of a lot of our objects. So I think that's it for my overview. Any questions for us?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. The GP7 board committee principles, which governs how we set up committees, has a clause in it which could be read to have a conflict with this, and I want to state that I don't think it does, but I want to bring it up so everybody knows that we thought about it. So the rule number 5 under GP7 is committees will be used sparingly and ordinarily in an ad hoc capacity, i.e. brought together for a specific purpose, they do their purpose and they go away. We have some exceptions to that. For instance, the policy committee has been around forever. Sometimes to people's annoyance. That said, I don't think this particular language is necessarily in violation of rule number 5 under GP7. I just wanted to get that out there so if there was an issue, people could address it.
Matt?
Yes.
Yes. So I have thought about this and I have brought it up before, and I don't have an issue with any of the stuff that you guys have done. But part of my problem is exactly what you talked about. Is it time to let you go and be your own entity versus having to report back to us, the school board and the select board, because the original charge was met. The charge that we gave them was met. And we've, correct me if I'm wrong, because I probably am, but I don't remember in years past giving them another charge. You came up with your charge, right, Sarah? Did you rephrased and
the original
came up with this charge?
developed by both boards
Right.
prior to any of the committees.
Exactly.
And so this revision is our first.
Right.
Pass through it again.
Right. So hence where I'm coming from then is because we are not giving Corey a charge now. They have developed their own charge. For me as a school board representative, I think it's time. They have done such a great job. They have done so much for our community and for our school. I think they could stand alone as a committee, if they want to call themselves a committee, or a committee. Yeah, a committee works well. I know I'm stuttering here. I don't want anyone to take offense. I just think it's time for them to stand alone. I think they've done a great job. They know where they're going. They've got a mission statement. They've got goals. They know what they need to get done. And I just think that it's time, as far as I'm concerned, that we step back and say, you've done a great job. Continue with what you're doing, but without having to report back to us. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not speaking for the board at all.
We have had good conversations about, we've been heavily focused on the town. And we've had some really good conversations about what our role with the school board is and how we would best serve the school board. So, you know, and Russ has been part of some of those conversations. And we also want to have a larger conversation about, you know, inclusivity in like a larger manner. But we did have a really robust conversation about the validity of being kind of owned by the town and the school board, just because being a standing committee of existing bodies gives us some, help me with a word, some
gravitas.
Yes, that I think is really helpful with this work when it can be challenging to convince people that the work is valid. Is that fair? So, I mean, we would prefer to stay a standing committee of the town and the board, but we do know that we need to do, you know, Aline was very actively involved with you guys, and we really haven't found that niche because we've been really chasing the policy path pretty hard with the town. So we do have an intent to reach back out and say, like, is there a place where we would fit, or is there work or research that we can be doing on your behalf or for you? It is obviously our intent to bring back recommendations. That's, you know, we're not. So it is a very valid, open question that we are also discussing. So, I mean, our stance on it is we would love to stay a standing committee.
Yes.
Yeah, and I understand that, but I mean, I've expressed this in the committee that it's difficult as a joint committee, and I purposely have refrained from commenting on any of the town activities because as a representative of the school board, it is really inappropriate for me to comment about town operations type thing. Because while I've been appointed, I am not given the authority to speak on behalf of my fellow board members. So that's just something the committee needs to think about type thing, because it's an excellent committee. And I guess the other thing is the role of recommendations versus enforcement. I think is the other one, because normally a committee makes recommendations, but doesn't necessarily hold a board accountable. And I think that was part of my colleagues' concerns.
Right. It is. Thank you.
And we don't have any enforcement powers. I mean, we kind of show up every quarter and say, this is what we're working on. Yeah, we also feel that the role with the school board is, we would like it to be more difficult if that is something that you would want to continue to do.
I'm looking back at Hartford Community Coalition. You know, we started out was just kind of working with them and helping them, but now they're a separate entity. I mean, I am still one of, well, not only one of the representatives here, but I'm also a board member and the chair of that board right now. But they ventured out. So I said, well, we started out as a little child, and then we went through the teenage years and all the stress of getting it all together, and now we're adults, and this is what we're doing in our community. They're still connected with us in the form that we do things with them and they do things with us. And I think that's for me again. I think that's where you guys are. You've gone through that infancy stage. You've gone through the rough times of getting everything set up. You guys know what you're doing. I listened to your videos and read your minutes. So I do know what you've been doing. And that's where I think you've grown to the adult stage now. And you can say, we can do this. We have got people that firmly believe what you're doing and are willing to back you up. And I don't think there's anybody on this board who would say, no, we're not going to back you up, because we absolutely would. I just wanted to bring that up before we talk about the rest of the charge and stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
It is not a discussion. It
Sure.
is a discussion that has been had.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think I could say the question is HCORI a governmental function or a civic function? And I think there are benefits to having it be a governmental function. But I do admit there have always been a tension between two organizations being the sponsor of this standing joint, or this joint committee that was brought together, when we are purposely divorced from each other in almost every other aspect. It's literally set up that way, where we have separate legal structures, we're separate governance structures, very different forms of government and how we act. The rules that apply to our behavior on this board are very different than the rules that apply to the behavior of the select board. So I recognize that tension is there. Personally, I think there is still a purpose to be obtained by having HCORI be a governmental organization as opposed to merely a civic organization such as your beloved Rotary or whatever. But I think that is sort of the gist of the real question.
If I may,
Yes, sir.
Joe Major, White River Junction. One of the other reasons why HCORI exists is for support. And I say this in the fact that I know that the school district is trying to enhance its equity arm, and we can help in doing that. I'm not sure if the school district has used HCORI in that way. And I would also say this, having worked with the school district as well as the select board. And one of the things that both entities have been trying to do is work more closely together. And having this committee be a part of that can help in that. I know that in particular, when you have had seminars with Mary Gannon, and both the school board and the select board have come together, those are very productive and very productive for both entities. I think those should continue with the help of HCORI. And so that's why I push back a little bit on, yes, they are two different governing bodies. But I think the town is better if those governing bodies work a little bit closer together, as well as try to work together to make sure that we're getting to where we want to be. That I'm not quite sure that strategic plan that was made several years ago has been attained, both on the district school district side as well as the town side. And we will continue to work till that comes to fruition. And so I'm going to have to push back a little bit with it, Nancy, on that. Although I absolutely understand where you're coming from. Anything that I think that can bring both the town and the school together to make sure that we are trying to work together to get to a common cause, then we should do that. And I think the support of H. Corey will absolutely do that. Thank you. And I'm sorry, any questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. Yes.
So for us, we at this time, we would just like to ask if our charge would be renewed by this board.
I mean, I would speak in favor of renewing the charge with maybe some continuing discussions around some of these issues type thing, because any committee needs to evolve and adapt type thing. But for now, it is an important function. So if down the road there's a change, it should be planned versus, yeah.
And if I mean, I'm sorry, Sarah. I agree completely, and this is one of the few times that Russ and I actually agree on. Yeah.
I got it. Was Lisa still here to notarize it?
Yeah. We absolutely have to evolve and continually look at what we're doing. And are we accomplishing what we have set out to accomplish? And if those things aren't happening, and quite frankly, if H. Corey becomes something that is of a bygone era, then you know what? We understand if you say, you know what, we want to Pontius Pilate and wash our hands of it.
That's not what I said.
But I will understand if it comes to that. And I think, and that's the other reason why I think the school board should be involved, because I think sometimes a committee has to have an entity take a 30,000-foot view at it. And I think you can do that for us and make sure that we are accomplishing the things that is needed in the school district and keep us on the guide rails of that. Now, that's a cooperative thing where we suggest things, but also we're an entity for you as well. And if you see a need for us to help you do something, as we've done with the town, with our Ps and doing work in that realm, then we are more than welcome in doing that. So, thank you.
If I may. So the relationship of the school board to the Hikari committee has been strained at times and is always a little bit difficult, which is perhaps not inappropriate considering the fact that the subject matter which the committee is dealing with is probably the most contentious issue that our society faces today. It inherently is going to be a little messy. It cannot be avoided. And I am in favor of continuing to support Hikari and have it as a subcommittee, much less, quite frankly, about the good work you do, but about what it says about our commitment to that work. And given that the importance of this work to our district, I am planning to vote in favor of this particular charter.
Russ, did you want to?
I'll make a motion. I mean, I don't think any more discussion.
Can I add something real quick?
Yes.
Sure.
As the sort of the public servant side of this, not the board, the elected official, but from my perspective as like, the district administrator and maybe the town administrator has a certain feeling to it. It adds a degree of oomph to the committee when it's part of the government. It's part of the bureaucracy is sort of a bad word, but it's certainly something that you want to pay a lot more attention to. This board and school board and select board participants and members, and it's a officially charged group. So
we've had people from New Hampshire, other towns in New Hampshire and Vermont come to our meetings and then establish similar things in their towns. So it says a lot about our commitment. And I feel like the school board, the school took the strategic plan and really owned it. And so we've been less interactive because, you're kind of really following really well. I mean, just your school update with, your training, your teacher in service was about this topic, and it's very important to us. And so, that I agree with you, like that to me feels like, and we've had people come to us, a guy from Brattleboro, Lebanon came to us before they formed their committee, to really kind of want to know how towns can and school boards can do this work. So that for me is the big push, is that our town has said, our school district has said this work is important.
I think at this point, everything that's needed to be said was said. So rather than, bloviate anymore.
I'll just add one thing. I just got a call in my ears. There's somebody with their hand up who wants to participate out there.
Oh.
I apologize for the ringing in my ears.
I've got 3 messages. I just got 3 messages. So somebody's holding it.
Michelle and
Did you hear the ring?
No, I didn't hear it. I just now.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Michelle Bolesky, Hartford, Vermont. And I just wanted to reiterate what Joe said. And thank you, Joe and Sarah, for your service and working. This committee is very dear to my heart. One of the things that I see not working is the town and the school working together. And I remember the committee in the beginning, and the purpose was to work together, right? And it's been kind of a source of frustration for me. I think that this committee is unique, and because the school district and the town are two distinct and different governing bodies, it does get problematic. And that's why the committee needs to hear from the leadership of both boards about what they want. And I think that communication, I mean, I know when I was on the committee, it was really challenging. So, I think if you guys aren't going to work together and you're not going to sit down and have combined meetings, which is something that happened when I first got on the school board, I think I remember distinctly meeting twice with the select board. And one was about the recreation department, which overlaps. And we share resources. And I was so thrilled that we had done that. And then again, we met together when the strategic plan was presented. I just encourage everyone, like if you're a committee member, you need to show up to the HCORI meetings, right? Because they need to hear from the board, and the school board needs to be involved. And, you know, I'm frustrated about the lack of progress of implementing the strategic plan. But again, we have monitoring reports, right? And so wouldn't it be great for the two boards to sit down with HCORI and go over, you know, what has been implemented, what has not been implemented, you know, what the goals are, where do we see ourselves in a year as a town and a school? Where do we see ourselves working together collaboratively to do this work? Because it's important. But so anyway, I'm just, you gotta give people directions too about what you want from them. And you know, again, it is problematic, as Russ said, for school board members to tell select board members how to govern and vice versa. And it's problematic because of the way our policy governance works, right? It's very tricky to have HCORI members go into the school and work with educators because of the way we've set up policy governance. So I think all that stuff needs to be clear to everybody, and maybe looking at policies and procedures and protocol. But I ask you to support this committee, to support the people who have been coming and doing the work over and over and over again. And I think if the town and the school can't work together, then you need to have separate committees. And that, you know, that's something I've thought about, but I would hate to see that happen. Anyway, thank you for letting me share, and best of luck.
Thanks, Michelle. Thank you. And there was somebody else with the hand up.
I just wanted to address the part about the strategic plan. I mean, we refer to that often in the district and use that as a guide for our work. In fact, we were talking with Dr. Gannon, because she attends most of our district equity team meetings, about some sort of a review at this stage of where we are, and like sort of a revised, updated strategic plan with what we should be focusing on now with everything we've done. So I'm pretty proud of what we've been trying to do.
So I think, you know, in listening to everybody, I think our next steps, you know, would be to go ahead and move the question, you know, and with this caveat. I mentioned to our colleagues yesterday in the cold, the last 2 years especially, the town select board and town school board, who actually share a duplex, that's my metaphor, we haven't gone to dinner. Okay, no, we used to go to dinner, right?
Yeah, we did.
We'd have dinner meetings.
Used to be nice.
Okay.
In fact, we had the blueberry guy at the dinner.
Yeah. And so I said to our colleagues, I said, we don't care if it's not about superintendents, it's not about administrators, it's about us as the two boards. We got to get our act back together around just getting back together, because we used to, you know, we would work our tails off to get at least 2 of those in a year, as difficult as it is to juggle between the two municipalities. But we do. That's the crazy part. We live in that same house. That's all we got to do is go across the hall, you know? Duh. You know, so let's focus on that, because it would be easy to have two topics that draw this community back together so quickly. And that would be our discussion around H. Corey and our strategic plan and how it affects both. And our recreation, the things we do together for this community, that is probably one of the highlights, you know, of all of our work collectively. And I would suggest that be our first regathering. Our regathering. And you know, we'll work on it.
Any sugar about if it's free food?
No.
Well, see, because the topic would be H. Corey would be, you know, like special guest at that.
Yeah.
You know, needless to say, you see,
District equity team too,
yeah,
right?
See, we got you covered.
Without belaboring anything, I do think, especially since we're going to be talking about EL10, as part of your next monitoring report, it would be a logical extension to mention what we've accomplished in the strategic plan, because that would be a reporting mechanism to see how far we've come.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, and are we ready to make a motion? Okay, then I will make the motion. Because I don't want any misunderstanding at all about this. I make a motion that we accept the revised Corey charge.
Second. So we have a motion and a second to accept the charge as drafted. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Thank you all very much. And let us know.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can I say one thing too before Sarah goes? Well, thank you for coming. I also noticed this week that Dr. Reynolds passed away.
Yeah.
And I just wanted the board to know that Ann Reynolds, who served on H. Corey for so many years and did so much work for the citizens of Hartford, but didn't even live in Hartford. He lives in Pomfret. Passed away. She was only 95. Full of energy, would never have known she was 95 years old. But did a lot of good work and was a real advocate for the kids and the families. So
and I'm just trying to get to my friend. One of the things that we're discussing is trying to set up some sort of student support in her name, whether it's a project endowment for the social equity group or if it's a scholarship or something. But Joe's reaching out, and I talked to Roy about it a little earlier, but that's going to be on our agenda on Wednesday night, next Wednesday night, because that was so key to her. So that is something that we're trying to reach out to you guys about.
Yeah, cool. I had the privilege of knowing her from a different life too. When I was a director of special ed, she was a school psychologist, and we worked together with a lot of kids in the Woodstock school district. So I knew her when I came here. But if you're at all curious, read the obituary.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Her history is absolutely amazing. Yeah. Very, very lucky to have worked with her and have her in our midst, and
we
served on the Harvard board.
Because we worked with her with our son as well before I was worried. So I'm sorry. Just an amazing human being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was still seeing clients up to 3 days before she passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
But her history in her young life is absolutely amazing.
Oh,
I know you'd all be fascinated. She was on the Harvard school psychology board, did all sorts of work down in the Boston area for kids.
Super lady.
Thank you both. There may be something that if I get agreement from the board members, that I will be coming to you.
Let us know. We're in service.
And
Thanks again.
continue disagreement. Joe, that's a terrible hat.
Just for you. Just for you.
I'm sure you coming here today.
Yeah. When you win 27 world championships
I can't argue with you there.
and have the MVP.
But what have you done for us recently? Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Here, guys.
Oh. But I think on that, that thread of getting together, with our colleagues, it's critical. We'll have to, look at our options again, where we might be able to pull that off. We did it, actually that the community center in Hartford Village is a pretty nice little venue. You could probably pull it up there. It's accessible. Yes, sir.
So if I may, I want to say thank you, Nancy, for starting what was a very good conversation and very needed conversation. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Town and school meeting results.
Yeah, I just wanted the board to know that both sets of results, unofficial, are in your packet tonight. FYI, I will post the official results for the town and school on the website tomorrow, because I just received them from Lisa. Just in case people are interested. I know sometimes people like to know exactly what the counts were.
But you have a budget.
Congratulations.
Yes, I'd like to thank the public for adopting the budget. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
It was terrific news to get last night. And welcome to our new re-elected board members.
Who had tough campaigns.
So let's see. Approval of the collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah. Well, this is a little funny this year. Neither of the physical documents are done yet, but you do need to approve what was in them.
Yeah.
The unions have both ratified the contracts, and the boards have agreed to everything in there, but all the parties are working out the language. The support staff contract's pretty much done, could be done tomorrow. The teacher's contract is a little bit more wordy, and we've still got some work to do. So I'll bring those to you as soon as they're done. But
so I guess what we will need is a motion to ratify the agreements, as negotiated.
We should be doing that separately.
Right.
Some of us have to
abstain.
Yeah. So I move that we ratify the teachers' agreement as negotiated. And I admit I've got a selfish bone in this, because that was a lot of time that Coach and I spent. I'd like to see it come to fruition.
Is there a second?
I second.
So we have a motion and a second to ratify the teachers' agreement.
Do I need to, before we go, do I need to abstain from that? Really? I do, don't I?
Yes, you do. Same reason I do.
I'm sorry. That just, hit
Oh,
me. I'm sorry.
You know, we still have, you know, enough members to constitute.
Do I need to pull my motion back though?
No, I don't think the act
No.
of seconding
Right.
Okay.
has anything to do with it. You're just not.
Okay, I
You're
got
just
you.
moving
Yeah,
the question forward.
okay. Thank you. Sorry.
So all in favor?
I,
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions.
Aye.
So we have 2 abstentions due to conflicts. Okay, now the support staff.
I would like to move that we approve the support staff contract as negotiated.
would like second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the support contract as negotiated. There's no further discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Unanimous. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the great
And
work
Russ.
with that one, Russ.
On the other hand, there were
Thank
some
you.
good meals, so.
Yeah. We've branched out, haven't we, from
Yeah.
pizza and Subway.
You know, Thai,
Wow.
Chinese,
Indian.
Indian, all sorts of different things. It was a lot of fun. And by the way, my thanks to the teachers negotiating team. Yes, they were a pleasure to work with.
And I would amplify the same thanks to the support staff negotiating team. It was a very cordial and productive session of negotiations.
And it is my hope that when the documents are finalized, introduced, and we have the formal signing, the teachers will do what they've done in the past, which is bring back cake.
You know, or they could resort to cupcakes. You know, if it's easier to manage. You know.
Probably in these COVID times.
Yeah, really.
Healthier.
So that brings us to EL10 revisions and the first reading.
So what I did was take the comments that I received and add them highlighted to the draft that's in your packet tonight. They were, I think, primarily from Russ, and I thought they were great additions to what we already had. So I wanted to kind of open the conversation about, you know, what the board wants. And I think, Roy, do you have some comments or you?
No, just the thing that I just want to stress is that I think that it's pushing us in the right direction with some of the highlighted components for us in terms of accountability.
And that was really my intent, to make it crystal clear. And again, to help even just communicate to the community the seriousness and the fact that there is systems of checks and balances.
It is two-sided. It's something I'm sorry about that. I knew there was more, so I don't know why it went on back, but at least it's all here.
Right.
You're looking.
So there's no need for actions on this being the first reading, but I would like to add my compliments.
Thank you.
Yes, I agree.
Nice job. Okay, so that brings us to board committee reports and updates.
Don't forget you had that other item you added.
Which we can do during that. Right.
I've got something to report from Corey. Good heavens, it's on my mind now. From Hartford Community Coalition, the fact that Emily, who is our executive director, and Kelly, who is an assistant there, has completed successfully training to certify adults who work with youth on mental health. I have been trained in, and not certified because they don't have a certification for this one, as a mental health first aider. Means that I've gone to some trainings and we've learned it. A training comes out of Dartmouth, and it was an excellent training. And Amy also, who is one of our paid employees for Hartford Community Coalition, is also taking that training, and she is also a trainer now. So hopefully you'll be hearing a little bit more and seeing us out there talking with the kids and helping even parents to know how to talk with their kids, to be very forthwith. They're seeing some signs and they're kind of a little shaky. They're red flags, but they don't know how to talk to their child. And so we now can talk to them, and I, as the first aider, can talk to the kids and say some of the hard things that you have to say. Are you thinking about committing suicide? This was a really hard training. It dug really deep to, and then as we practiced with one another on what to say and how to respond to some of the stuff. So I just thought the board needed to know that for the Hartford Community Coalition, we are working really hard to step up and make sure our kids are doing well. Yes, sir.
I think I might have been a little remiss. I probably should have brought a list of all of the committee assignments so that the board could reshuffle, redistribute. With Doug being new to the board, there's some things that Halva vacated that we haven't filled, and usually at this time of the year, Doug, we sort of shift the assignments around if people want to. So, there's like representation to the HACTC, the Tech Center, the Hill Quarry representation, HCC. Obviously, we don't have negotiations this year, thank goodness. But policy. So I could bring that whole list and who did what to our next meeting.
Yeah.
So yes. Doug and I plan to meet to do some training. We haven't had that opportunity yet, but when we do that too, I can go over what is entailed in each assignment. Some are much bigger than others, but probably nothing as much as negotiations, but that's usually a concentrated block of time and then it's over.
So while we're here, Russ, the update from H. Corey was pretty.
That was pretty much
right.
What I would say.
And so you and Doug actually are on the building,
and we have not met. So there's nothing to report there.
But it's on my list.
I want results.
Still on. And I have nothing to report on either the Tech Center or policy work.
As far as the signings, those go on. They have to. And they've been moving, quickly this time of year. With activities going on, there are generally special requests that are made, especially with winter activities being what they are, where special checks need to be drawn and verified. So between the treasurer and myself, we get that done so that it's expedited so the kids can get to where they need to go. So those work out. As far as the District Equity Committee, been meeting, with them. They've put the the job description together. Did a really great job putting the description together for Maggie's replacement. It came with a lot of discussion and recommendations, which will just make it even better. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's been posted,
Yeah.
if I can add, posted all over the place, including a couple national websites. HBCU is one we use, which is historically Black colleges and universities. We've also put it on the Latino School Administrators website, and Ed Week, which is a national website, and School Spring. We have about 10 applicants already. And sorry, you know, the other thing, today the notice went out to everybody in the community, in the schools, students, parents, teachers, staff, for serving on the search committee for that position. So pretty widespread, net I tried to cast out there to get members, and we've had quite a response. So that's exciting.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that's where, that piece is. And so that brings us back to this.
Well, the other thing I should mention on that, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this in my superintendent's report, but we did fill 2 parts of Maggie's job for the different groups she ran. So we were able to fill those this week with staff, and we're really excited about that. So the affinity groups for students and for families will start up, I think, next week. We have 2 great staff that are willing to do that, and just excited about it. So, Julia Anderson and Angela Ledoux. Janu. I don't know where I got Ledoux. So very excited about that.
So the work continues.
Yeah.
Which is the goal overall. So that's exciting. So that, I think, brings us to, well, before public comment.
All the students.
The student recognition.
May I?
Yes.
Okay. So I've been thinking about how we could, because obviously we're still looking for student reps to serve with us on our board, and how we could get recognition for some of these students that are really doing some outstanding work. And it's not all academics. And I'm not saying that that's not important, but I'm saying that there are students out there that can excel in other things that I felt we should be recognizing. So for obvious reasons, I started with the girls hockey team only because have been so involved with them. But all 6 of those seniors, I'm not quite sure what's the word I'm going to use. Nominated, that's not nominated, they were chosen. Thank you, there we go. So they were selected to be on the Vermont All-State team, and also on the, what's the other one called, Roy? My mind has gone blank. The All-State and the All-Star. That's the 2 teams that they've been. And the next, the game is coming up here in a couple of weeks. And I just felt that is quite a recognition. They are nominated. Kylie Young, who's their coach, nominated them. But then there's other coaches all throughout the state that come in and put nominations in too. And so they've seen these girls play all throughout the year, and all 6 of the seniors were nominated. We have 1 freshman that was also nominated. And so 2 of the girls will be alternates in case something happens to one of the official team part that's going to be playing the game. But what I'd like to do is recognize these girls. I'd like for them to realize that we are their school board. We're supporting them, and we think it's really important that we publicly recognize them. So I sent out the information to you guys. I talked to Tom and Coach, and I talked to Jeff Marino about it. So what we'd like to do is bring them in, like just at the start of the meeting, and we're going to invite them in, and we're going to invite the coaches in, and their parents. another way to get some more involvement for them to really have a chance to see what we really do and to show our appreciation for these young ladies. Now, I don't want to stop at that. I want it to go farther. I want to go to the bowling team, who just this past week or two have got two people that I don't know exactly which scores they got, but they did outstanding work for our bowling team. We've got the bass fishing team. So we've got arts, we've got choir, we've got band, all of those kids, their special outstanding achievement award type things that they get that we don't usually hear about, or the general public doesn't maybe hear about. And so I want to get to so that we can honor them all, obviously not all in one evening, but I just think it's really important. I think that maybe will help with our community involvement. And so I have already talked to some of the teachers and some of the other coaches and said, when something, let me know about it. Send it to me so we can get this event going. And they seem very excited about it. And I'm very excited about it. So I would like to propose that we could do that on a monthly basis, maybe at the start of the community involvement meeting, have the small group in, and then they can leave or they can stay if they want. Again, just to recognize the hard work that some of these students have really had to go through to get to meet these accomplishments that they have made. We recognize a lot of kids at graduation for the seniors. You know, they've won these scholarships and they've got the National Honor Society and all of those kinds of things. But I think it's real important to during the year to give some of these other kids that might not be recognized that night on graduation night that we really appreciate what you're doing. We're proud of you, and we want you to know that. That's what I would like to do.
Yes. I have two comments. Sounds like Nancy's going to take my spot on the community.
We didn't do that on purpose.
And two, I think that's an excellent idea. And you're right, it should be at the beginning. And we should also use it maybe as a venue when before the play.
Oh, yes.
Before a spring concert. And that way we can help promote. And that does address a need that the community has asked for. What's happening.
Exactly.
And I mean, so yeah, I think it should be a conscious effort and maybe planned out.
Right.
To allow, and we should encourage anybody, we maybe come up with an application process and it doesn't necessarily always have to be something spectacular for the event, just something good.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And
that way everyone feels.
Yeah. That was the intent. You know, that was, you know, as this started to evolve the conversation. And it fit perfectly with all of the work that you and Hava did around community engagement. You know, I mean, we have that meeting and adding to it, you know, starting with our kids, and that brings mom and dad in, and that, you know, it just grows.
And maybe we could have pizza in the beginning, and that would more people.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I just want to caution the board that, you know, I get a lot of criticism around appearing to only celebrate athletes. I want to make sure this is celebrate everyone. And so I like Russ's sort of idea.
Well, that's what Nancy actually, when we started this conversation, it was about all kids.
Yeah.
You know,
yes.
Because we have some kids doing some pretty cool things.
Yes, all ages, all abilities.
I think that's the other thing. All ages.
Yeah, not just high
school. The high school play, we could be junior high play and all that stuff.
Yeah. So like, for example, you know, like this weekend was Junior Iron Chef. And I'm not sure if the middle school sent a team this year, but we have in the past. You know, that is the coolest thing. I have gone, you know, and it is so neat to watch these kids, you know, they're off the little red flag, you know, swinging food and just so professional in the, it's all farm to, farm to plate. Those kinds of things that our kids are doing are outstanding. And we should be able to, recognize those kinds of things too.
Yeah, I think anything that they're doing that deserves recognition.
Absolutely.
Could be promoting
absolutely
a certain book in the library selection. It could be some outstanding essay. It could be, But maybe a form is a good idea. Develop some sort of form where to let me know so I can let the board know. And are you thinking only at the engagement meetings, the second meeting of every month, or any meeting?
Yeah,
but that's what we were thinking about.
See, it fits the engagement, meeting, and that way we can still get our policy work done, in that first meeting, and the second meeting is about checking in and being part of. That's what that was all about.
But I would amplify and say, I think at first it should be the community engagement. We work out the kinks.
Yeah.
Right.
But again, if we want people to attend our quote unquote normal meetings, we need a hook.
Yeah,
sure.
And kids are a hook.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
And so, I mean, maybe it's only 5 minutes in a normal meeting, but I think just working out the kinks, getting the procedure so it's planned out, because that's the other part of it too.
Right.
There needs to be a certain spontaneity, but we want to make sure there's somebody lined up.
All the time.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah,
yes.
You got it.
Somebody in the queue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So then my next question is, may we go ahead and do the senior, the ice hockey girls with the seniors, because they're going to be gone. I mean, Bray won't be gone because she's a freshman, but the rest of them will be. May I go ahead and invite them to start and use them as our start?
It's a kickoff, and we're getting.
Is that okay?
Yeah, let's get started.
Great. Because then we can start looking at. Well, we should have done this or that or how exactly. Yes.
Let's tweak it here.
Right. Pardon me.
The first of many.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, we do have a candidate for student representatives, so hopefully I'll be able to bring them to one of the upcoming meetings.
Good.
Pretty excited.
Good. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nance.
Thank you.
Okay, that does bring us to public comments. Anybody out there?
Public member Michelle has her hand up for public comment.
Hi. Thanks for letting me speak again. Just can't get away from. I'm trying not to go to board meetings, but wanted to check in. As some of you know, I was on the board for 4 years, so still very interested in what's going on. I have a few things, so if you just bear with me. One is I want to add to what Nancy said about community engagement. One of the things that I was very happy about when I was on the board was that second meeting was starting to become a community engagement meeting. And I think it's a great idea to bring in students. However, it's really hard that piece in the strategic plan about having someone who is able to communicate what's happening in the district so that you have community engagement. Because I find that I don't hear anything about what's going on in the school unless it's negative. And I know that there are great things happening because I talk to people, but what I'm seeing in media and stuff like that is negative. So just a heads up, that's not a good thing, right? And I think hiring somebody to be able to communicate to the public about the things that we're doing, because anyway, so that's just one thing. The other, when you did the, I have to look at the agenda, the report, and in it, it said something about reporting racist incidents. My question is there a rubric for that? Like, for example, if a kindergartner says something that's problematic, is that treated the same as someone who's in high school? And, you know, how is that approached, you know, according to grade level and age? So, and you can answer me, like, if you don't want to do it tonight, if somebody could get back to me about how that works, I'm just really curious, because I know as a teacher, you know, that those things can be problematic, and like, I think taking age into account is very important. Okay. So then number 3, so I listed in order. I would really like to see a report, or maybe in the community engagement portion of the meeting, what things have been implemented in the strategic plan. You know, I think it'd be great to reach out to the community and say, this is what we're working on. This is what we've accomplished. This is where we want to go. Because again, I don't know what's going on. And I'd like to, because it's something that I care about, and did care about as an educator. And, you know, when I was a school board member, and I continue to care about and participate in equity work as a citizen. And then number 4, I have a question about equitable assignments amongst board members. Is everybody participating in committees and being available? You know, is that equitable across all board members? I know that being a representative to the Hikori Committee takes a lot more commitment than some other committees that meet 4 times a year. So I just hope that that we're not burning out some people, and you know, I think that the expectations should be evenly placed across the board. And then okay, so my next thing is the Covell House, and I have an idea for that, and I don't know if Tom's gonna like it. And I apologize, but I went to the housing workshop with Twin Rivers and our town planning commission, and the need for housing is like ridiculous. Like, across the state, 40,000 new units, right? And in Hartford, and it's my understanding that we lost an incredible educator because they couldn't find housing. So I think in order to attract people to our district and be able to be competitive, and it's not just salary, right? I think we should look into that property, creating possibly units for staff. So I'm throwing it out there, and it might be controversial, but you know, we do have property, and so wouldn't that be unique and amazing to get people, you know, really great talent, you know, and say, oh, you know, we have affordable units for people who want to live and work in our wonderful community. All right, and then last, again, that communication piece. Like, I know that the town is looking into getting a communication director, and you know, that it's very, you know, at least, I mean, I think our website is amazing, and I can find the things that I look for, and I refer back to policies and procedures and protocol, and I think you guys do awesome job of explaining that in your meetings, and I learned so much being on the board about how government should work, and and you guys, I think, bravo, you do a great job. But I think the communication piece, and I said that when I was on the board, needs work. And it's not a criticism. It's just, when I say these things, it's so we can be even better, right? And I know, we have 3 administrators at the top, and one of the reasons why I remember suggesting we create another position is so that that person can communicate with the public. And anyway, so that's it for me tonight. Thank you so much for bearing with me and listening to me. And I promise I'll only show up once every 4 months.
The one thing, if I may answer, the others are too lengthy probably to get into, and I see where the board wants to go. But as far as the response to racist incidents, we use a restorative practice. So at every level, it's age appropriate to the level of the student. So if there's an incident in kindergarten, we use a practice that's responsive to and tailored to a kindergartner. At the middle school, it's a middle school type approach. At the high school, it's quite different than what it would be at the elementary. So that's how we respond, but we do respond. I mean, they are very much on our radar, and the radar of administrators is any sort of racist incident. So that's how we address those incidents.
Michelle, thank you very much for your
Thank
comments.
you. Yes. And look for upcoming agendas, because the strategic plan is going to be reported out during part of the superintendent's EL10 updates. So that's coming. Any others out there? Okay, so I guess the consent agenda.
Yeah, we
had.
Yes.
With respect to the consent agenda, I would like to suggest that we remove our acceptance of EL3 temporarily. Given the issue we were discussing earlier today, we do not want to give the appearance of prejudging that issue.
Okay.
I do have some appointments, resignations and retirements. And you have 3 sets of minutes to approve. So the regular meeting, which was a month ago, the 8th, and then budget discussion, candidates night, and the annual town meeting. Then for appointments, I have for next school year, Richard Campanaro for literacy integration professional teacher at the HACTC. We weren't able to fill that this year, so we've finally been able to fill it, and we have someone we'd like to hire for next school year coming from Texas.
Some good people that come from Texas.
Yeah. We have a leave of absence for Tara McCullum. She's a 2nd grade teacher at TBS. Here at Johnston Middle School, science teacher is resigning. Julia Pinkava, special educator at White River School. And we have Jack Peisch, who's a middle school alternative learning teacher. And then we actually have Roy Hathorn, who is resigning as the director of secondary CIA and wants to get back into the classroom. So a lot of regrets with that one, but I understand.
I'd like to move that we approve the consent agenda with our thanks to those who are departing and our welcome to those who will be joining.
Second.
And I'm glad that by your departing, you're not leaving.
Yes.
Can't get rid of me that easy.
I second that.
Pleasure working with you.
Yeah. Second.
So we have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda with special note sent to our friend and colleague and past student Roy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Let's see. So our next meeting is the 22nd. It is an engagement meeting.
We do need a short executive session. Contract issue.
Yeah. But anyways, maybe the April meeting, we might be able to pull something together with the town.
Okay. I'm open for suggestions for the meeting on the 22nd. We have the presentation. But I don't think that's going to take the whole meeting.
No.
So we'll have to work on it.
Yeah, because I don't have any idea right now.
See, at first I was thinking it was a little short to get, our duplex neighbors to come up, but maybe for April, schedule that event.
So, meeting evaluation?
Yes.
I thought you would resign from doing it, or you?
No, I said I would do it right to the bitter end. And that way I can celebrate. Except I don't have it, so I can't do it. I mean, we could shorten it and basically say
satisfactory.
That I think everyone had a chance to speak. We were all listened to. We focused on ends, not means, and we followed Robert's rules of order as appropriate and necessary. Satisfactory.
Thanks.
I would move that we find that there is need for an executive session pursuant to VSA 313A1B for purpose of discussing labor relations with employees, and that we enter into said executive session.
I'll second.
So we're going into executive session at 7:53. All right. All right.